Welcome back! This week, Wayne and Elly begin discussing the Ikigai model and take a deeper look into the first section of the framework, which is all about what you're good at, what your passions are, and the professional route you should then take. Let's go!
Okay, welcome back. This is the Ikigai model, and we're going to talk about the four sections of that. And the first one, we're going to start on the left-hand side of that. It's essentially what you are good at, and that comes down to what you're passionate about and what your profession is as well. And it gives you a satisfaction, but feeling of uselessness because it's potentially something you're really good at, but nobody wants to pay you for, and you don't really love it. So it can, but it's something that you're good at. So that's all we're focused on is what you're good at. I know I've mentioned that a few times now. But so when I left the forces, I was a really good vehicle mechanic or an engineer. I could fix anything. I could help repair it or recover it. I was a really good problem solver. And that was my profession. So I was passionate about. My dad was an engineer. My grandfather was an engineer. And my great grandfather was a blacksmith in the Forest of Dean, and he owned his own forge. So like a long line of engineers in my family, and I was really proud to kind of go into the REME, and it taught me a lot. And it's still a useful skill to this day, being able to repair my car if it breaks down or do basic servicing whenever I need to as well. So it still continues to serve a purpose, and I really enjoy it. And it allows me to empathise with engineers in the teams I work with, whether they're software, whether they're fitters, whether they're wire fitters or machinists. I can empathise with them all, and being at the coalface and working with tools or working with software as well. So that's something. But if I did that nowadays, I'm still passionate about it, and it's still a profession of mine. But I wouldn't enjoy being back on the tools. It wouldn't drive me. It doesn't give me that purpose anymore. I think that's really important when you talk about the Ikigai model is what you are good at, and it has to give you that feeling of usefulness. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and
What was your? Elly, I'm keen to hear.
So that's the passion bit, isn't it? That's that passion bit where you're like, it makes me
Yeah.
feel good, and I really enjoy doing it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So definitely, yeah. So it's something you're really passionate about doing for your day to day. It gets you out of bed in the morning, and it's also your profession. That's kind of a good place to be in. But if you don't really, if it crosses over to where you're good at and what you love crosses over into that passion, but it's potentially not useful to you. It satisfies you, but it doesn't potentially give you the drive, or no one's going to pay you for it, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess, Elly, question to yourself: what were you when you left forces? What were your kind of human skills, but also your technical skills? What were you good at in general?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and I'm really enjoying listening to you talk about it because you're quite a few years ahead of me on this front. I feel like I'm still in the process of going round the Ikigai model, and using this to really identify and drive what it is you want to do is vital at kind of each stage as well. It doesn't have to just be used once and then leave. It's going to continue to develop. So when I left last year, I think a lot of the transferable skills that get talked about at CTP and on LinkedIn and those things that kind of say you've got so much about you as a service leaver, don't discredit something which we take for granted. And that's something that I think is the soft skills that I would say that I'm good at. And that I enjoy. And it's I really like problem solving, and I really enjoy having something in front of me that needs like a bit of nitty gritty, sit down, work things through. What am I good at? Empathy, people focused, and really putting people at the center of a decision, whether it's big, little, whatever it may be. And when I look back at all the things that I enjoyed in my career, it was when I got a chance to make a change for an individual. And there are quite a few times in my career where I can remember really explicitly like feeling so good about helping just that one person. And it might have been, so I think, there was things like when I was at the URNU, so the University Royal Naval Unit, trying to get young students into the Navy, and they were having problems with their applications for the Navy, which probably is no surprise to anybody, and actually trying to fix those and sort them out and actually be able to do that tangible help for those individuals. So that's one thing that I think I'm good at, is putting the people first, figuring out how to support them and making it happen for them. How you wrap that up, still trying to figure that out, but that is a passion. And it absolutely can be a profession. So passion of mine, 100%, making people feel valued. Profession, there are many out there that put you in that place, I would say.
Yeah. It's definitely like this develops you. It's not just, you can't just look at this as the one piece of the puzzle. It's the full Ikigai like kind of framework system that you kind of have to go through to get to that centerpiece. But like you say, it's understanding, and that profession in your, when you see the model, would kind of leads into that, what you can be paid for. So what you're good at and what you can be paid for is your profession, potentially. And if you're not good at it and you can't get paid for it, you probably don't want to be doing that as a profession.
Parking.
So and I've that's developed for me over time as well. I realised that I wasn't as passionate about engineering as I am today. And throughout my journey, when I was looking around the shop floor doing the spanners, so I looked at my profession and went into sales. I realised I really didn't like sales as such. Like I wanted to still be involved in the product or the project throughout. So with hands on. So I looked at project management, but I wasn't still quite passionate about that as much. I wanted to be with the teams, like in the trenches, if you like, just kind of helping them and deliver the product, but not hands on, looking at from a kind of a process or a flow perspective of how work done, so I can make their lives easier. That's what I was really passionate about. And then I came across Scrum. And as a Scrum Master, that is your profession. You're looking at the system, you're looking at how the work flows through a system. And bolting on top of that, I've done things like Kanban courses, which has helped me become a better Scrum Master or an Agile coach for the teams that I serve. So it's certainly, definitely, unconsciously, looking back at my journey now using Ikigai, that is very much what the decisions I was making at the time. That what am I passionate about? I'm a very not a bit of a sensitive person, so I understand my feelings and quite self-aware of my emotions and how I feel at the time. And if I don't feel right, my wife would tell me first, because I'll be moody, and she'd be like, something's not right. And then I do a bit of self-reflection and say, yeah, I'm not happy doing what I'm doing. I need to either change the company I'm working for, or I need to change my profession and pivot accordingly. But those two definitely go hand in hand when I make decisions, and they're the first things that definitely my kind of combat indicators to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And just keep going back to review, keep going back to finding out your passion, I think is a really key message throughout the whole of the resettlement process and that onward process. Because going back to your point from the other chat that we had, I think the statistics are service leavers will only spend 18 months in their first job. I mean, I've done 10, so still had a few months in me, in according to the statistics. But that says a lot in itself, that it's that first job won't be the forever job. And to go back to your Ikigai, go back to the first stage of what you are good at throughout the whole process is vital. It's really, really vital. It's not a one-stop shop tool. It's something to continue to focus on. So yeah, absolutely love that. So the next phase of Ikigai
I've spoken with numerous service leavers. Sorry, I just wanted to finish. I wanted to I spoke with numerous service leavers now that one got out to inspect lifting equipment and crane equipment. If you're really passionate about that kind of industry or health and safety from that perspective, that's the perfect job. But after a year of doing it, it was like, he still enjoyed that, but he actually wanted to change and try it out in a different department, a different company from a different perspective, to get a broader experience. So he changed his profession from a private company to a council authority, and similarly to a person who left REME, did a service engineer job in a big company, but was just hoovering out machines and maintaining machines on a day-to-day basis, which didn't give him any purpose or passion. He wasn't passionate about it, but he was still good as a profession. So he changed his job to become a project manager, where he could be involved with teams for a bit more and lead projects. So he had that. He was quite passionate about that. So those two went really hand in hand for both those conversations. Yeah. Just about to say the next part. So
One final comment one final comment on the back of what you've just said, which has just kind of sprung to mind is, and I think it's just having awareness of, it's not something that you can necessarily control, but perhaps mitigate against. When you're, and I'm just going to refer to the Navy in particular, when you have a job in the military, in the Navy, so when you're at sea, your role might be an ME, so marine engineer, and your day job could be XYZ, okay? And that's what you get up and do each day. Now pick that up and transfer that across to the civilian world. You still might be doing a really similar job, but what you lose out on is all the other aspects of the service life. So when you're at sea, it's the travel, it's the camaraderie, it's your mates who you're living with all the time, and it's taking those into account, that just because you're good at it and it's a passion in the military doesn't mean that translates across to Civvy Street at all. And I think that's something to bear in mind, isn't it? And that goes back to our previous session, talking about what your non-negotiables are and what those other aspects that you need from a career. And if it's people, because that's also what makes you enjoy your job, then that's a consideration. So just an interesting point of that transfer across.
Yeah, definitely landed with me. Something that's landed with me as we're talking is like, this is a really good tool to self-validate before leaving, like what you're good at, and then just going through that. So I think we're summarised with that at the end. I think is to talk about that self-validation before NGTing, and see if does your current job in the military tick all these boxes, and if it doesn't, what does? And then use that exercise to figure it out potentially.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks for watching. Next week, Wayne and Elly unpack the next section of the Ikigai framework, what you can be paid for. See you then.